Well, hello and welcome to another Hardcore Nuzlocke. Today I want to attempt a run of Pokemon Emerald using only Steel types. Steel type was introduced in Generation 2 alongside of the Dark type to try to curb the overpoweredness of Psychic. They do resist Psychic. As a matter of fact, the only weaknesses that they have are fighting Ground and Fire. Most everything else is resisted by Steel types. They're known for their very strong defense. As a matter of fact, they are number 1 in defense overall. As far as base stat totals, they're rated number 4 in special defense, and they hit decently hard. The unfortunate thing about using steel types is they are rated number 14 in speed, meaning they are very slow. They're also a very rare type. When it was first introduced, there was 5 Pokemon. They brought the Magnemite line into the fold. From Generation 1, they introduced Fortress, which was a Gen 2 Pokemon. They gave Onix and Steelix an evolution that you could only get via trade, and then a Steel Flying type in Skarmory, and that was all of your Pokemon. Very, very few encounters. As a matter of fact, moving into Generation 3, we only have 3 new encounters, not including Registeel or Pokemon like Jirachi, because we're not going to use legendaries. That only gives us a total of 8 encounters, and unfortunately in a game like Pokemon Emerald, you cannot get all of these Pokemon. As a matter of fact, the Magnemite, the Skarmory, the Mauville, the Aron, and the Beldum are the only available encounters here in Pokemon Emerald. Magnemite can be found in Mauville, Skarmory can be found on Route 113, Mauville can be found in Victory Road, Aron can be found in the Granite Cave, and Beldum is a gift Pokemon post-game. So that is going to make things a little bit difficult when it comes to encounters. That is the very first thing that we do when we start these Nuzlocke runs, is we try to figure out what our encounters are. What kind of movesets do they have? What kind of stats do they have? And we formulate plans from there. Only having a few encounters available to us makes things, well, relatively difficult. So, just like in our Ice-type only run, what I've decided to do is I'm going to make available to us all 8 of those encounters so that we can use each and every single Pokemon. I've also taken to redo the starters here. Just like we did in the Ice-type run, I put these guys in numerical order as they appear in the national decks, and then I hit a random number generator. In doing so, I can change up the starters with the Pokemon randomizer, and our starter is going to be Aron, the Steel-type Pokemon. That's pretty awesome. This is a good starter to have, because it does learn a Steel-type move, which should help us take on Roxanne. All the rest of these Pokemon are going to be boxed up in egg form. We're going to hatch one after every single gym, so after we beat Tate and Liza, assuming we beat Tate and Liza, we are going to get our last encounter. This gives us a little bit of variety. We get to do all of the Steel-type Pokemon and have a little bit of fun with this run. Otherwise, we would be stuck with Aron and Skarmory for the entire playthrough, and I think that would get very, very boring. Taking a look at our starter here, we nicknamed it Nickel. It has a relaxed plus defense and minus speed nature. That sucks on the minus speed, but these Pokemon are not very fast anyway. Looks like we got some decent starting out stats, and this thing is going to learn a Steel-type move before the level cap of level 15, which is going to help us, as I said before, in Roxanne's battle. It doesn't guarantee a win, however. Pokemon Emerald is one of those unique games that gives us 2 rivals for the entirety of the playthrough. Unfortunately, we can't nickname either one of those rivals, and Wally is kind of a dud. So in my head, I nicknamed our rival Algorithm because that is what we are trying to beat in-game and in real life. If you guys want to help me beat the Algorithm in real life, you can do so by liking the video, commenting on the video, subscribing to the channel. Any interaction is fine. There's been an overwhelming There's been an overwhelming amount of support. Whoops. Continued on each and every one of these videos, and I thank you guys so much. It is amazing. I did say a couple episodes ago that, hey, I don't care the comment. If you got something to say, say it. Just remember, I poke back. And Somebody decided after a couple of videos that they wanted to poke, so now I'm going to poke back, and I'm not going to use protection. Their comment was very simple. They said they didn't like that I was complaining in the last video about other people, and that they were unsubscribing, to which I replied, bye. Back in the day, I used to get really sad when comments like this would happen, and I would sit back and just be like, no. And nowadays, I'm more along the lines of just go, because I don't really need that negativity on the channel. I wasn't really complaining, just a little miffed at the way some things were happening in a certain video, and of course I came across an epiphany more or less about why people comment the things that they comment on the videos, and I was explaining to you guys the thought process of how I got there and so on and so forth. I mean, this is my channel. I'm allowed to say and do as I please. You're allowed to say what you want in the comment section too. I did not delete that comment. That person decided they were unsubscribing. I mean, the comment on the video helped the algorithm, so thank you so much. With the exception of dropping, you know, a bunch of F-bombs and stuff like that, I can pretty much do what I want. YouTube frowns upon a lot of cussing. They will demonetize the video if there's an F-bomb here and an F-bomb there, here an F-bomb, everywhere an F-bomb. Old McZappy had a farm. We should stop before we get demonetized for stuff like that. My peanut brain is overriding the alligator mouth, and we should just continue on this Nuzlocke. And quickly moving on from those shenanigans, I'm going to do quite a bit of EV training. The Puccinas here on Route 2 can be found at level 2 and level 3 respectively. I think we can run into some level 4s as well, but the level 2s are 15 experience, meaning I can gain almost 200 attack EVs if I play my cards right, before we get to Roxanne, which should help us immensely. Now, like I said, we do get Metal Claw, we do get a Steel type move that is super effective against her Pokemon. It's not quad super effective like Grass type is, or Water type against her Geodudes, so we're not going to be able to one-shot her Pokemon, but we should be able to defeat them relatively easy. Rock type moves are not super effective against us. As a matter of fact, we resist it, so the deck looks stacked in our favor. However, RNGesus is not always fair. There could be flinches, we could get outsped. There are many things that could go wrong. Metal Claw is not 100% accurate, so there are many different ways that, of course, we could lose. We could get attack boosts from Metal Claw, and we could win very easily. You just never know when you're relying on a little bit of RNG to get you through a battle. A single Pokemon into a gym battle is a little bit scary, but we're going to do a bunch of EV training and try to stack the deck just a little further in our favor. The only other thing I forgot about Roxanne is her Pokemon have Rock Tomb. They use it to control speed. Once they outspeed us, they typically stop using it. Brock does the same exact thing. Now, Metal Claw does a significant amount of damage to Geodude, taking it to red health, and we do get hit with that aforementioned Rock Tomb, lowering our speed. Rock Tomb only does 2 HP of damage. Roxanne decides to burn her first potion, but it doesn't heal the Geodude all the way up, so one more super effective Metal Claw can take out the Geodude. This is going relatively well. The second Geodude comes out and of course outspeeds us and hits us with a Rock Throw. Rock Throw does the exact same damage that Rock Tomb did, 2 HP, and our Metal Claw does the same thing it did on the last Geodude, taking this thing to low red health. Roxanne uses her last potion to heal this thing up, and we take it out with another Metal Claw. I did do quite a bit of EV training, got about 170 effort values into attack, and it is showing in this battle. Nosepass comes out and is faster than us and just goes for block. I only have a single Pokemon, so that doesn't matter. And Metal Claw, surprisingly, does about half. Just over half. Unfortunately, the held Oranberry of Nosepass is going to pull it back up over half, so another Metal Claw isn't going to take it out. Nosepass just goes for Harden, though, and we fire off another Metal Claw because of the defense boost. We take it into low yellow health. Nosepass just goes for Tackle, which does 1 HP, and it crit. That's crazy. and one more Metal Claw is enough to take out the Nose Pass. That was a fairly easy first gym battle, but they are going to get more difficult. So after running the random number generator, we grab an egg from the box, run around to hatch it, and it hatches into a Skarmory. That is phenomenal. This is the only Pokemon in this list that answers Brawly perfectly. Now I am going to nickname this thing Tungsten, and there is a name theme, just like there is in every other run. But it's not as simple as, oh, they're metals. There's a little more depth to the name theme. Can you guys guess it? I will of course announce it after I hatch the last egg. Now Tungsten here has a serious neutral nature. That is perfect. I'll take it. And it has the egg move Drill Peck, which is phenomenal. We do have a rival battle leaving Rustboro. To be honest with you, the rival in these games is not difficult. The rival fight on Route 110 is the only difficult fight, and if you're prepared for it, it's not very hard. I've been doing a little bit of training with Tungsten. We went to Route 116 and battled all the trainers there, so we've gotten some levels, but not too many. I do want to take Tungsten back to Route 101 and do some EV training before we head to Dewford. Her Lotad went down in a single Drill Peck. 2 Drill Pecks take out the Torchic with just getting tagged with Growl. Like I said, these rival battles are not going to be that difficult. I'm still going to show them though. Full transparency. Just a hop, skip, and a jump. Later, well, technically we got on a boat. And we did hop over a ledge. And we did skip with our Pokemon to Mr. Briny. I'll shut up. We're at Brawly. Brawly's fighting types could be devastating to our steel types, but having Tungsten with Drill Peck, it's one-shot city. There's a one-shot here, a one-shot there, here a one-shot, there a one-shot, everybody gets a one-shot. Old McZappy beat Brawly down. So after a random number generator, we grab another egg, and it hatches into a Steelix. That's amazing. Now, Steelix doesn't learn any ground-type moves via level up, but it is a ground steel type, so it is going to resist, it's going to be immune to Wattson's Pokemon, and I can't spell Chromium, I can't talk correctly, we're having a bad time. It's because of the stupid Old McDonald joke. Chromium, Chromium. There we go, we did it. We did it. Though it doesn't learn any ground-type moves via level up, the ground type means we're immune to electric types. The Lonely plus attack minus defense nature is going to help out against Wattson. I mean, we have the Rockhead ability, which is okay, but this is a perfect answer, and I think our luck is going to run out very soon. Now, of course, just like in a lot of other runs, especially the Ice-type run, we did make sure that we come all the way back to the... Hey, that guy just completely blocked me twice. But we do come back to the Devon Corp after delivering the letter to Steven Stone to talk to Daddy Stone because he gives us the experience share. This is going to make leveling up our Pokemon a lot easier than trying to do some switch training. You know, talking to these guys in line, they say all kinds of neat things. Like this guy says he should have brought his Game Boy Advance so he wouldn't have gotten bored in line. Get with the times, man. A cell phone, you can play these games on your cell phone via emulators, and you can also get them on the Switch. But this guy says, it reminds me of a time I lined up to buy smash hit games. Not any specific game, just smash hit games. Okay, thank you for being ever so specific. As I said moments ago, the battle with the rival is not difficult, especially if you're prepared. Here we are on Route 110 meeting Algo before we head to Mauville. She does lead with a Wingull, and I've been training up Chromium to get this thing closer to the level cap. We're doing relatively good, and we do have the egg move Rock Slide. We're outsped and hit with a super effective water gun, but that thing hits like a wet paper towel, and we can take it out with a single Rock Slide. Combuskin comes out, and Combuskin is now a fighting type, so I swap into Tungsten, but Combuskin just goes for focus energy, so we can take it out with a Drill Peck that is now super effective against the fighting type. This just leaves her Lombre, and we can take it out with a super effective Drill Peck as well. Very easy battle. The air is tasty here. What? We should get far away from this kid. Now, just because we're immune to the electric type attacks from Wattson's Pokemon doesn't mean that this is a free battle. Voltorb has Rollout, Magneton has Sonic Boom, Supersonic. There are many ways that we could be KO'd in this battle. Voltorb goes for Rollout, but we resist the move, so it does 1 HP of damage, and Rock Slide takes this thing into low red health. Wattson can't heal because it's locked into Rollout. We get hit with the second one that does 1 HP of damage as well. I'm not really worried about it, and I go for Tackle because it's a little bit more accurate than Rock Slide. It does crit, but that crit doesn't matter. Out comes Electrike. I don't know why these Pokemon do this, but it just goes for Howl. A single Rock Slide does connect, and it is enough to take out the Electrike. Now the biggest threat on Wattson's team comes out, is Magneton, who tries to go for Supersonic. Our Rock Slide does pitiful damage because Steel type resists Rock type. So I decide to go for Screech as Magneton is still trying to confuse us. Lowering its defense is the best strategy I have. It goes for another Supersonic, that is 3 in a row that it missed, and we get off a second Screech. Our luck can't hold out forever because Magneton finally does confuse us with a Supersonic. And of course, why wouldn't I? I hit myself in confusion. We then get hit with a Sonic Boom, but we break through confusion to tag this thing with a third and final Screech. Now I don't want to deal with confusion, so I look to switch out, but I forgot Magneton has Magnet Pull, which means Chromium's got to do this battle. We get hit with another Sonic Boom down to 27 HP, and luckily I do break through confusion to nail a Rock Slide that does in fact KO the Magneton. I don't know if the crit mattered, but -6 to defense it shouldn't have. This brings out his Manectric. Now I do heal up with a little bit of an Oran Berry as it comes out. Manectric just goes for Howl like his Electrike before him, and we do break through confusion to hit it with a Rock Slide down to half health. Citrus Berry activates, pulling this thing up to almost full, and it just goes for another Howl. Again, I don't know why. We do snap out of confusion at this point, and we tag it with a Screech. That is awesome. It goes for Howl for a third turn, and a Rock Slide KOs it, winning us the third gym badge. We do grab ourselves another egg via the random number generator and hatch for us a Scizor. Scizor's awesome, but this is where This is where our luck runs out, because this thing is not going to help us in the next gym badge. I'm going to name this thing Manganese. I'm not taking that out. That was dumb. We name our Scizor Manganese. Manganese has a Jolly plus speed minus special attack nature. I'll take it. We actually... This thing is quad weak to fire. It has the egg move Silver Wind. I need to take just a second. Alright, I have composed myself, and now I want to bring you guys in to discuss the strategy I have for Flannery, or at least how I got to the idea. The first thing to note about Flannery is one of these 4 Pokemon is not going to make it, and that doesn't make me happy. Every one of these I have raised from an egg, with the exception of Nickel, but it doesn't matter. He's been on the team for a long time, and you never want to see any of your babies perish. But I've got to get over that because there's no way I'm walking away from this battle unscathed. The next thing that we need to do is really take a look at her team. Numel and Slugma aren't a threat. We can take those guys out relatively easy. We do have to get a super effective move against them, but we will talk about that momentarily. Her Camerupt, though it is relatively weak, it does have a decent speed stat, so it can outspeed at least Nickel. Tungsten and Manganese aren't going to see much battle time if I can help it. They will outspeed though, however. We don't have a super effective move against something like that Torkoal that just showed up on screen to scare the ever-living crap out of me. Looking at this battle, it's going to be between Chromium or Nickel to do it. That's just what we're going to have to do. Now, there's another damn Torkoal. Her Torkoal has the move Overheat. All of her Pokemon have the move Overheat, and it is a base 150 stab move. Now, it does have 90% accuracy, so we can potentially get missed, but her Torkoal has a white herb nonetheless that will allow her to hit us with 2 fully powered overheats. For those of you that don't know, when you use overheat, it drastically drops your special attack by 2 stages, I believe. Her white herb cures that off, so we're going to be taking 2 overheats at full power. If we steal the white herb with Thief, which we got the TM at the museum, we could potentially tank only 1. Now, none of my Pokemon can tank a single attack, so that's not really a viable option. It is a strategy nonetheless, but that would surely be a sacrifice. Now, as we're running back to Fall Arbor Town to get the TM for return, which is not a super effective move, that's the next thing that we need to look at is the available TMs to us and our team. Do we have super effective moves? We have a Steel Rock type in Nickel, and we have a Steel Ground type in Chromium. What can we do with that? Looking at their movesets, there's not much we can do. Looking at the available TMs for us, or move tutors, there is something that we can do. Please get out of my way. I'm just getting blocked every which way we go. Here in Fall Arbor Town, or just outside of town rather, there is a little house that we can make our way to, and we can get the TM for Dig. We can put that on Steelix, and it is a stab super effective move. Chromium will get a plus 100% boost from it. That means this base 60 power move will be base 120. Combine that with the soft sand that we got in Slateport, and now we have a base 126, roughly, power move to take on her Pokemon. With a little bit of speed EV investment, I think Chromium can outspeed her Pokemon, so this is a very viable strategy, but not the only one we have. The other involves us backtracking all the way to Mauville to this move tutor right here that can teach a Pokemon Rollout. And Nickel can learn it, and it is a stab super effective move. Now, just like what I said at Wattson, locking yourself into Rollout in a Nuzlocke is not a smart strategy. You can't do anything. You can't switch out, you can't heal. Of course, we can't use items in battle, but this is not the strategy I want to go for, but is the only other one I have, and with how Flannery could go, we're going to set ourselves up to use both potential strategies. I don't know how this battle is going to go. I don't know if we're going to walk away from this. All I know is Chromium is going to be the lead, and we are going to do the best we can, and hopefully not have to bring Aaron in with that terrible, terrible speed stat. In Generation 3, I don't typically do damage calculations, but I wanted to know how this battle would go. And unfortunately, I'm going into this battle knowing that Chromium cannot one-shot Torkoal. There are a couple of saving graces. Overheat can miss. It could go for a completely different move. Dig could crit. If it crits, we don't lose a Pokemon. Knowing what I know going into this battle, however, is very sad, and I don't know if you can hear that in my voice, but I am very, very sad at the moment because I know what is going to happen. Because the RNG gods ran out when we got the Steelix for the Wattson battle. Now, I did edge Chromium and Tungsten to level 30, put the experience share on Tungsten so they could gain a little bit more of a level, have a little bit more of an attack advantage. We go for Dig against the Slugma, and Slugma just sets up Sunny Day. She does not need Sunny Day to one-shot my Pokemon with Overheat. We come up from a Dig, and it is of course enough to one-shot the Slugma, and out comes Camerupt. Now both Numel and Camerupt know Magnitude, and while we were underground they could use Magnitude to do some damage to us, but barring a level 10 Magnitude, we don't get one shot, and of course she's trying to go for the more powerful Overheat anyway. We avoid Camerupt's Overheat, and we can cleanly one-shot it with Dig, and this brings out the Torkoal. I go for Dig. She misses her Overheat. I come up from a Dig, and it does not get a critical hit. Overheat does not miss, and Chromium goes down. And a critical hit to add insult to injury. The special attack drop is cured up with the white herb, and I send out Tungsten to invoke the second part of my plan. I'm hoping that Drill Peck is enough to KO Torkoal, and it is a range that we don't get. Leaving it on 1 HP, and Tungsten goes down to a fully powered base 150 stab super effective overheat. This does get the -2 to special attack. For Aeron to have even a sliver of a chance, I decide we've got to send out Manganese. So I swap it in as Flannery goes for a Hyper Potion. I do a little bit of damage with Quick Attack, and Torkoal gets hit with another Quick Attack, and then can take us out with a stab quad, a super effective overheat that does drop its special attack to -4. I swap Nickel in, and I start setting up rollouts. Now, Nickel surprisingly outspeeds the Torkoal. I think it's a speed tie, I'm not 100% sure, and Torkoal just goes for Body Slam because of the lowered special attack. So my second rollout takes the Torkoal very low in red health, and it sets up Sunny Day. I think it is setting up to take us out. However, Flannery goes for another Hyper Potion to fully heal up the Torkoal, and our third rollout connects, taking this thing right back down to red health. And this means if rollout connects on the next turn, we win. We actually win. It connects. Holy shit, we won. At a great loss, but we won. We didn't wipe. That is insane. Unfortunately, 3 of our 4 teammates fell in that battle. So they will forever sit in that cloud in the sky, heavy in our hearts. Chromium, Tungsten, and Manganese, who is not on the team for very long. It's unfortunate because I had some real plans for these Pokemon. Oh, teammates. I'm going to have to pull the items off of these lifeless corpses too. That's just so morbid. Sometimes the Nuzlocks are great, and sometimes you have things like this happen that are just terrible. We can grab ourselves another egg, however, since we beat the gym, and we can hatch it. It hatches into a Mauville. And Mauville is actually the only pure steel type on the entire team. In Generation 6 it gains the fairy type, but in these games it's just a pure steel type. I do nickname this thing Iron, and it has a docile neutral nature, and it has the Intimidate ability. Intimidate is phenomenal in any Nuzlocke. This right here should be a huge clue into the name theme, considering I named the pure steel type Iron. Have you guys guessed it yet? I race back to Petalburg to take on our deadbeat donor dad, Norman, and his normal types. His normal types should not be able to do too much damage to our Pokemon, but we have a very small team. I do lead with Iron, who is a special attacker and can learn things like Flamethrower and Ice Beam, which we did get. I do have a Persimberry just in case of Teeter Dance, and I fire off a Flamethrower turn 1 that does right at half, and Spinda just goes for Psybeam instead of Teeter Dance, which is weird. I fire off another Flamethrower, which is enough to KO the Spinda. Now, because we're Steel type, we are going to bait out the Slacking next, because it has the fighting move Counter. Now, Slacking is actually faster than us and fires off a decent little Facade there, and I go for Fake Tears to lower its special defense. Because of how much Facade did, I decide on its loafing turn to swap into Nickel, and then immediately pivot back into Iron so that we can get that Intimidate drop off. Slacking goes for Counter, which misses, so that was a free swap, and that's very nice. Slacking is loafing, and I want to see what Flamethrower will do with the -2 to special defense, and we get a critical hit down to red HP. Citrus Berry then pulls this thing out of healing range. It goes for Facade that does a decent amount of damage still, even with the -1 to attack, but a Flamethrower KOs the Slacking, albeit another critical hit. That was 2 in a row. I need some luck after the Flannery battle. Vigoroth comes out next and hits us with a Facade that does 10 HP of damage, and I hit it with a Flamethrower that puts this thing right at half health. I decide I shouldn't be using Flamethrower against Pokemon that have Facade. We do get hit with a slash for 9 HP of damage. That was kind of a dumb move to use, both Slacking and Vigoroth. A critical hit, Ice Beam, does take out the Vigoroth next turn, and out comes Lanoon. Lanoon typically likes to go for Belly Drum, so I stay in, but it hits us with a Headbutt down to 5 HP that also flinches us. Well, that sucks. I was hoping it would go for Belly Drum and we could take this thing out in poetic fashion. Nickel comes out and gets hit with a Headbutt that does not do a lot of damage. And I decide I should go for Metal Claw. I was deciding which move was going to be better. We get hit with another slash because of course we're outsped, and Metal Claw does a significant amount of damage, not quite half. Facade takes us down to 68 HP, not doing a lot of damage, and Iron Tail connects, KOing the Lanoon. We grab another egg from the box, we're getting very low on them, and we hatch this thing into a Beldum. That is an amazing addition to the team. Hell yes. Now Beldum here we are going to nickname Cobalt, because it's blue. Yeah. Kind of the only reason. Again, there is a name theme. We do have a mild plus special attack minus defense nature. We have the clear body ability, which is amazing. And of course, this thing only knows takedown. So we're going to throw the experience share on this thing and start getting it up to level 20, where it evolves into a Metang. When you get to Mauville, you see Wattson standing outside, and if you talk to him, he gives you the basement key for New Mauville. Now, getting into New Mauville to shut off the generator will get us the TM for Thunderbolt, which is going to be a great TM for Magnemite when we get it. And speaking of Magnemite, technically, we can catch it here in New Mauville. But we don't want to do that. I have one in an egg, and we are going to stick true to the original plan, which is all the Pokemon are eggs. We're going to hatch them just like we did in the Ice-type run, and go from there. I don't know if it has an egg move or not, but rather than just leaving a egg in the box and catching a Pokemon here, we're just going to do what we originally planned. Making our way to the Weather Institute, we have a huge evolution, Cobalt evolving into a Metang. Metang? This thing. Oh, I told you, peanut brain. Nonetheless, this is a huge evolution on the team. Much needed. This thing's going to learn Confusion and Metal Claw. Awesome. Since the level cap is 33, we can now have another evolution. Our starter, Nickel, can finally evolve into a Lairon? Lairon? How the hell do you pronounce this name? Lairon? It's not Lairon, because that would be Lairon, and this is Lairon. It's Lairon. I don't know. Evolution, though. On Route 119, we have what is going to be our final battle with our rival Algo. If I go to the department store, I'm probably not going to show that battle, but I don't think I'm going to do any shopping anyway. Her Pelipper is super annoying, but there's nothing on her team that can really do anything to us. I battled a ton of trainers getting to this point. All the trainers in the Weather Institute, and Cobalt's got some serious levels. Pelipper does its normal, protecting every other turn, but eventually we do take this thing down with our 4th Confusion. She then sends out her Combuskin. She never evolves that thing past its 2nd evolution, and because it's part fighting type, Confusion does a lot of damage down to yellow health. It just goes for bulk up, so one more Confusion takes it out. Last is her Lombre, who does hit us with a priority fake out for some chip damage, and then we fire off a Confusion that does about a third, and then it's just going to fire off Nature Powers Swift that don't do crap to us because it's a normal type move. So after a little bit of... Actually, this was like a 4-minute battle because of how long it was. We do take out our Lombre with another Confusion, winning us the last rival battle. For Winona and her flying types, my strategy is simple. We're going to lead with Iron, we have Ice Beam, and hope for the best. Now, Swablu is actually a range, surprisingly enough, so let's hope we get the favorable range. There's not much Swablu can do, Perish Song would be terrible. We do get the favorable range, and it goes down. This should bait out the Altaria because it has Earthquake. Altaria is very scary. It does like to go for Dragon Dance, but surprisingly on turn 1 it decides to shake the ever-living crap out of me down to 38 HP. I do fire off a fake Tears, and I do have a held Oran Berry. That Oran Berry was the key to this whole battle with the Altaria. This should put me at enough health. We are trying to avoid a critical hit, but Altaria throws the battle going for Dragon Dance. This means we have enough attack power with our Ice Beam to one-shot the Altaria. Amazing. Tropius comes out next, and it threatens with Solar Beam, but an Ice Beam that is quad super effective does cleanly one-shot it. Next up is Skarmory. Skarmory hits us with a resisted Aerial Ace, does 9 HP of damage, and I fire off a Flamethrower that does significant damage. I do miss my Skarmory Tungsten. We get hit with a Sand Attack, annoyingly, and then we can fire off one more Flamethrower despite the accuracy loss, KOing the Skarmory. I still have 2 minutes of footage left as the Pelipper comes out, because it's annoying. I decide I don't want to stay in with Iron because it's at low enough health, and I swap in Nickel. Pelipper just goes for Protect like it normally does, and Nickel actually can learn Electric type moves, so I taught it Shockwave. Pelipper does its annoying Protect thing. It connects with Supersonic. We hurt ourselves in Confusion. Of course we do. Pelipper protects. We hurt ourselves in Confusion again. Pelipper protects. We finally get hit with a Water Gun that does a significant amount of damage. I wasn't expecting that, down to 30 HP. I actually can fire off a Shockwave at this point that does not KO the Pelipper despite being quad effective. Oran Berry does heal us up to 40 HP, but there is no way I can take another Water Gun, so I swap into Cobalt. Cobalt can tank the incoming Water Gun very well, and then Pelipper decides to cooperate, going down to a Confusion. We only have 2 eggs left, so we grab one, and we hatch for ourselves a Fortress. I was hoping for Magnemite. That means our last egg is going to be a Magnemite. Unfortunately, in these generations, Fortress is just not a great Pokemon. It can only learn a bunch of normal moves and like Toxic. Nonetheless, I nicknamed this thing Titanium, and let's take a look at it. It does have a Careful plus Special Defense minus Special Attack nature. That's not great, but we can teach this thing Toxic, and combine that with Protect, we can stall some things out, so welcome to the team nonetheless. Between the 6th and 7th gym, there's just a ton of storyline stuff. We have to go to the Magma Hideout. We have to go do the Aqua Hideout, Mount Pyre. There's just a ton of stuff to do. And I normally don't show these battles, but Maxie actually has a team that is formidable. Mostly just her Camerupt that has Stab, super effective Earthquake that could take out any number of Pokemon on my team. With losing Tungsten, I don't have my immunity to ground type moves. I decide to lead with Cobalt against the Mightyena because of Clear Body, we won't get intimidated, and then I immediately swap into Nickel. We just get hit with a takedown on the swap that doesn't do much damage to us, and then Mightyena goes for another takedown. I was thinking it was going to go for Swagger. We can start setting up rollouts though, and this is the strategy. Not a great one. Mightyena misses a Swagger, which is annoying because I do have a Person Berry, and gets hit with a second rollout. Maxie then goes for a Super Potion, and a third rollout can take out the Mightyena. Out comes Camerupt. We need rollout to connect. It does connect. That's a 4th rollout. That takes out the Camerupt very easy. It was the only strategy I could come up with, otherwise we could have lost some Pokemon. Crobat outspeeds us, hits us with a bite, and flinches us so that we don't get off the 5th rollout. I decide to swap into Cobalt, who gets hit with a Confuse Ray on the swap in. That's annoying, so I pivot back into Nickel, who gets hit with a bite on the swap in. I was thinking about switching again, but I decide to stay in, and we get hit with a Confuse Ray. I don't want this battle to go on too long, and I have the Person Berry, so I go for Rollout. It does a decent amount of damage. Maxie then uses a Super Potion, which is really weird, and a Tier 2 rollout doesn't quite KO the Crobat. We do get hit with another Confuse Ray, and of course we hurt ourselves in Confusion. We get hit with another bite, and I break through confusion to KO the Crobat with a shockwave. Just before our battle here in Tate and Liza's gym, we have a huge evolution on our team. Lairon evolving into an Aggron, and this is a Pokemon I have never, ever used. So I'm very excited to add this bulk to our team. Our starter is fully evolved. Walking into this gym, I knew that Claydol had Earthquake on it, and I had a plan to lead with Iron and Cobalt to take out the Claydol as fast as we could. The Intimidate from Iron is going to help lower the attack damage from Earthquake, and then the spread damage will ensure that neither of my Pokemon will go down to a critical hit. What I forgot was the Soul Rock has Flamethrower, so as I entered this battle that became apparent, and I had to quickly devise a strategy. But first, let's get rid of this Claydol. Xatu goes for Calm Mind, which is pretty standard. It could go for Sunny Day, which would be very dangerous, but Claydol does fire off that Earthquake, no critical hits, and both of my Pokemon tank it fairly well. Ice Beam does a significant amount of damage down to just below half for Claydol, and a physical Shadow Ball KOs the Claydol. The plan worked out perfectly. Now out comes Soul Rock. I think because Iron is lower health that it's going to go down, so I decided to swap out a sacrificial Pokemon and then try to do some damage on Soul Rock is my plan. I swap in Titanium, Xatu goes for Calm Mind as you would expect, and Soul Rock goes for Flamethrower against Titanium, so my thought process was correct, and Titanium goes down. That's unfortunate, but its sacrifice was needed to bring Nickel out safely. Shadow Ball then connects against Soul Rock, doing a significant amount of damage, taking this thing well below half. A held Citrus Berry pulls it back up over half. Xatu then goes for Calm Mind, and luckily for us, Soul Rock decides to set up the sun with a Sunny Day. Now, I don't know if another Shadow Ball will KO the Soul Rock. It doesn't, leaving it on a sliver of health, and so Nickel was the backup with Metal Claw to take out the Soul Rock. Perfect. Otherwise, we would start losing Pokemon very quickly and could wipe. Lunatone comes out. It is at this point that we probably need to start getting rid of the Xatu. It does just go for Confuse Ray against Cobalt, which is random, and Lunatone is trying to put us to sleep with Hypnosis. Cobalt hurts itself in confusion because why wouldn't it? And Nickel fires off a tier 1 rollout that does over half of Xatu's health. Xatu then fires off a +3 Psychic against Nickel, doing well over half of its health, and Lunatone just goes for Calm Mind. Okay. Cobalt snaps out of confusion and fires off a Shadow Ball against the Xatu that cleanly takes it out because Ghost is physical in this game, and we miss our rollout on the Lunatone. Lunatone goes for another Calm Mind, so we can do what we did before, and we can double up against the Lunatone. Shadow Ball does a significant amount of damage. No Berry because we're still mid-turn, and Iron Tail connects, beating out the Lunatone, winning us what could have been a very costly gym battle. Hopefully for the last time, we have to add another member to the Fallen category. Our friend Titanium, you weren't on the team very long, but your sacrifice helped this team beat Tate and Liza. It will never go unforgotten. Thank you so much. Time to grab our last egg. We know what it is. Let's put it on the team and let's go get this thing hatched. A little bit of running around in Mauville, and of course this egg hatches into a Magnemite. We knew it would. Now Magnemite is a very, very good Pokemon. Magneton is a great Pokemon. It is another special attacker. I'm really happy to have this thing on our team. I nickname it Boron. The name theme is alloys, steel alloys. Tungsten, boron, cobalt, they're all things that they use to make steel stronger. We do have a quiet plus special attack minus speed nature. Minus speed on a Magnemite is not great. But yes, nickel, cobalt, they're all things they combine with iron and coal to make a steel stronger an alloy. Manganese, look it up. That's what it is. A little bit of training later, and we have a huge evolution, Boron evolving into a beastly Magneton. Now that minus speed nature does suck, but this is still a great Pokemon nonetheless. Phenomenal. I've used this thing in a couple of runs now. I know it is amazing. I do decide to show off the Archie battle. This one is nowhere near as scary as the Maxi battle, but why not? I do lead against his Mightyena with our new teammate Boron, and Boron is not even close to the level of these Pokemon, and despite being 7 levels lower, we outspeed it and hit it with a nasty Thunderbolt. Now the Thunderbolt doesn't KO it, unfortunately, and Mightyena just goes for a scary face, lowering our speed. Archie then goes for a Super Potion, so we can take this thing out with one more Thunderbolt. Out comes Crobat. We get outsped and hit with a Bite. Luckily it doesn't flinch, and we can take this thing out with a single stab super effective Thunderbolt, and this just leaves his last Pokemon, Sharpedo. Sharpedo comes out, goes for Taunt, which doesn't matter because we KO'd with a single Thunderbolt. Just before we take on the 8th and final gym battle with Juan, we have the last evolution on our team where Metang evolves into a Metagross, adding some huge bulk to the team and a little bit of coverage. Very nice. Now against leader Juan, you would think Boron, water types, done deal. But after we take out the Love Disc, he is going to send out his Whiscash with Stab Earthquake, and Boron is 4 times weak to it, so against his Love Disc, I'd lead with Cobalt. Now turn 1, we do get outsped, and we get hit with a Water Pulse. Luckily for us, it doesn't do a lot of damage, nor does it get the confusion, so we can fire back with a Psychic and cleanly one-shot the Love Disc. This does bring out the Whiscash as I thought. We go for Psychic and outspeed. Psychic does a significant amount of damage down to low yellow health, and Whiscash just goes for Amnesia, so this was free because we can take it out with one more Psychic. Celio comes out next, and now I swap into Boron. We do get hit with a Water Pulse on the swap that does a decent amount of damage, but a single Thunderbolt is enough to KO the Celio. Up next is the Crawdaunt, which is perfect. It too falls to a single stab super effective Thunderbolt, and this just leaves Juan's double teaming Kingdra. We hit it with a neutral Thunderbolt, and it does a lot of damage down to low red health, and I'm very surprised at the amount of damage that did. Kingdra, of course, sets up a double team. Juan then goes for a Hyper Potion. I could do some chip damage and take this thing out, but I decided to just hit it with another Thunderbolt. Juan then heals again with another Hyper Potion, and then we can get back-to-back Thunderbolts to finally KO the Kingdra. The +1 to evasion never really was a problem. So after quite a bit of travel and some grind, here is our team leveled up to level 55 to meet Drake's Salamence. We have Nickel the Aggron with Earthquake, Rollout, Iron Tail, and Brick Break. Iron the Mawile with Crunch, Flamethrower, Fake Tears, and Ice Beam. We have Cobalt the Metagross with Psychic, Pursuit, Meteor Mash, and Shadow Ball. And rounding out the team is Boron the Magneton with Thunderbolt, Metal Sound, Screech, and Tri-Attack. That's a pretty terrible moveset, but Thunderbolt's all we really need. And Iron is probably going to learn some TMs after we get past Drake before we take on Wallace, but that is yet to be seen. The battle with Sydney is never difficult, but things get a little crazy. I do lead with Cobalt against the Mightyena because of the clear body. I then decide I want to stay in just to see what could happen, and I miss a Meteor Mash. We do tank a Crunch from the Mightyena very decently despite it being super effective. That's Steel type for you. I do immediately swap into Nickel, who gets hurt with a very, very weak resisted Crunch. Mightyena then goes for Sand Attack, which is annoying, but we do connect with a Brick Break to one-shot the Mightyena. Out comes Crawdaunt. It sets up a Swords Dance, which could be dangerous if the physical special split was a thing. I go for Brick Break, and unfortunately, it leaves Crawdaunt on a sliver of health. So I know Sydney is going to heal, so I swap into Boron on a full restore. And then I can one-shot this thing with a follow-up Thunderbolt. This brings out Shiftry, so I do swap back into Nickel. Shiftry misses the Swagger, and then goes for double team, so I miss my Brick Break. Shiftry then tags us with a Torment, so we can't use the same move twice in a row, and I KO the Shiftry with a Brick Break. Out comes Cacturn, I go for Iron Tail, and surprisingly it connects, and one-shots the Cacturn. Last out for Sydney is his Absol, which can be a little bit scary because it likes to set up Swords Dance, but that doesn't matter because we do one-shot it with a Brick Break. A little bit all over the place, but we won. Against Phoebe's Ghost types, I decide to lead with Iron. Now her lead Dusclops is quite a bit annoying with the ability Pressure and Protect. It can kind of stall you out of some power points. Turn 1 it does in fact go for Protect, so of course our Crunch misses. Surprisingly, Dusclops goes for Protect turn 2 and it worked, so we miss another Crunch. The double Protect is crazy. Luckily, it doesn't go for Protect again. I've seen it try to go for a third Protect. And we get a critical hit with Crunch so we can knock this annoying Pokemon out. Now, this is going to bait out her more leveled up Dusclops that has a little bit of type coverage. This thing has Earthquake. I can't one-shot it, so I go for Fake Tears the first turn. And then we do get hit with that subsequent Earthquake. And surprisingly enough, we survive. It's not stab, it's not super effective. It actually does less damage than I thought it would. We can then fire off a +2 boosted Crunch to one-shot the Dusclops. That was still technically a range. It was like a 98% chance that we one-shot it. I did do a little bit of damage calculations because I don't want to lose Iron. It's very important that she lives. Against the first Bayonet, we don't KO it with Crunch, and then we get hit with a Shadow Ball that does a decent amount of damage, but not too bad. Phoebe then goes for a full restore, so I can get back-to-back crunches to KO the Bayonet. The next Bayonet comes out, and I figure I can survive another Shadow Ball with this thing, but it outspeeds us and hits us with a Thunderbolt that takes us all the way down to 8 HP. Whoops, that was a risk that I did not need to take because had that crit we would have lost Iron. We do one-shot the Bayonet with a Crunch, and out comes her last Pokemon, Sableye, so of course I immediately swap into Nickel. We get hit with a resisted Feint attack on the swap-in, which doesn't do a lot of damage, and then we shake this demon thing for quite a bit of damage, not quite taking it out. Who knew it would survive a shaking? It just goes for a shake of its own in double team, and then one more shaking this thing very hard knocks it out. Against Glacia and her ice types, you would think, hey, you're going to lead with Nickel and his fighting move, but no. We're going to lead with Cobalt, and Steel type moves are good against ice as well. I do go for the less than accurate Meteor Mash, and it does connect turn 1 against her lead Celio, and it is enough to one-shot it, plus we get the +1 to attack. That's phenomenal. Out comes her Walrein. This thing is very bulky. I go for Meteor Mash again, and we do connect. It does a significant amount of damage, but unfortunately doesn't one-shot. We do get the +1 to attack, so now we're sitting at +2. We get hit with a Surf, and that's the biggest reason we didn't use Nickel, because these Pokemon have Water-type moves. We tank it fairly well. Citrus Berry activates, but it's not enough to pull it out of healing range because Glacia goes for a full restore. We then hit it with a very nasty Shadow Ball. Back down to yellow health. It gets the special defense drop, but that doesn't matter because Ghost is physical, and we can outspeed it and take it out with a follow-up Shadow Ball. Very nice. The first of Glacia's Glalie come out, and I decide to go for Meteor Mash once again, and it does connect, and of course one-shots it because stab super effective moves. Out next for Glacia is her last Glalie. I go for Meteor Mash again, and finally, the RNGesus decides we're not worthy, and we miss. Glalie just sets up the hail. I knew it was gonna, so that was a nice free attack. I then decide to go for the more accurate Shadow Ball, and because of the +2 from Meteor Mash, it is enough to one-shot the Glalie, and this just leaves her last Celio. I go for Shadow Ball against that because it is more than accurate, and again, it is enough to one-shot the Celio, winning us a pretty easy battle. That critical hit did not matter. Now, you can find a few rare candies across Hoenn. There's not as many as there is in Fire Red and Leaf Green, but with the 6 I had in my party, I can level up Iron to level 62, and that puts our speed stat with the invested speed EVs to just fast enough to outspeed most of Drake's Pokemon. I think it's still a speed tie with Salamence, I'm not 100% sure. I know I'm a bit over-leveled for this battle, but this was the only strategy we had to where we could beat his Pokemon. Shelgon's not a problem. Shelgon's going to go for Protect, but he does have a Flygon with Stab, Earthquake, and then his Salamence has Flamethrower. Shelgon goes for the double Protect and gets it. If we don't outspeed those two Pokemon, they will wipe my entire team. We fire off a super effective Ice Beam against the Shelgon, and it is enough to one-shot it. This does bait out the Flygon next with Stab super effective Earthquake, but luckily we outspeed it and can one-shot it with a quad super effective Ice Beam. I do have the Never Melt Ice item equipped as well. We don't have Stab from this, so we are relying on a little bit of strategy and a little bit of luck. The Salamence then comes out next. The Intimidate drop does not matter, and this is the moment of truth. I click Ice Beam, and we do outspeed the Salamence. The quad super effective Ice Beam luckily is enough to one-shot the Salamence. Had that not, we would have gotten hit with Flamethrower, and we would have lost Iron, but one of our other Pokemon could have cleaned up the battle. Kingdra then comes out next. This thing is a bit scary, but I tag it with a Fake Tears to lower its special defense by 2 stages. It just sets up a Dragon Dance. Now because it outspeeds us, it goes for Smokescreen, which is annoying because our Crunch the next turn misses. Of course it does. Kingdra then sets up another Dragon Dance, and we connect with a Crunch this time that does a very significant amount of damage for well over half of its health. Kingdra then hits us with a Surf that takes us right down to half health, and we break through that -1 to accuracy to take out the Kingdra with an Ice Beam. This just leaves Altaria. It's a bit risky to leave Iron in with that -1 to accuracy, but I do, and fire off an Ice Beam that does connect, and it is enough to one-shot the Altaria, winning us a very hard-fought battle. It seemed easy to you, I'm sure, but trust me, this was very long thought out. Now, Champion Wallace's monotype water team on the surface seems like an easy win, but he's got a very stacked team with Pokemon like Whiscash, Gyarados, Melodic. I do lead with Boron against his Wailord. I'm hoping a single Thunderbolt will one-shot this, and then I'm hoping we bait out the Gyarados next, but we could easily bait out the Whiscash. Thunderbolt is enough for the clean one-shot, and luckily the RNG gods are in our favor because Wallace does send out his Gyarados next. The Intimidate drop does not matter. We can fire off that special Stab, quad super effective Thunderbolt, and by Pokemon law, Gyarados goes down in a single hit. This then brings out the Whiscash, and unfortunately we don't have an answer to this, so I'm going to have to bring out another Pokemon. Now coming into this battle, Nickel knew what this battle would entail, and knew that a sacrifice would have to be made. Its secondary rock typing doesn't make it very good against water types. It does come out on a Stab super effective Earthquake that it tanks very well. There is nothing I can do. Nickel will be outsped and will be taken out next turn. All I can do is hang my head in sadness as we lose our starter. Nickel knew what she was getting into and was willing to make the sacrifice for the betterment of the team. This will not be in vain, I hope. I do then swap Iron out. Because this was a free switch-in, we can then outspeed and set up a Sunny Day on the first turn. We did learn some new moves, specifically for this battle. We then get hit with an Stab super effective Earthquake, but that Intimidate drop did matter here because we tank it on 79 HP. I can then fire off a quad super effective Solar Beam. This is kind of another Pokemon law. Whiscash goes down to grass moves, period. This baits out the Tentacruel next. I go for Solar Beam turn 1, and it does a decent amount of damage, looking to be just under a third. We then get hit with a Hydro Pump that surprisingly we tank on 31 HP. Now my thought process is to lower this thing's special defense, but Clear Body prevents that, and luckily it misses its Hydro Pump. Had I probably just gone for attacking moves, we could have taken this thing out. Solar Beam is neutral because of its poison typing. We hit it with another Solar Beam, and it doesn't quite take it down to a third of its health, and we do get hit with a Hydro Pump that unfortunately takes us out. That is half of our team down. I swap in Cobalt, we get outsped of course, and hit with a Hydro Pump that takes us all the way down to 103 HP. I can fire off a Stab super effective Psychic though, and get rid of the Tentacruel. This just leaves Ludicolo and Melodic. Out next for Wallace is his Ludicolo, so I fire off a Psychic and it does just about half of its health. Ludicolo annoyingly sets up its double team like it likes to do, and then I fire off another Psychic, but unfortunately Ludicolo survives on a sliver of health and then can clap back with a very decent Surf. Wallace then goes for a full restore, and we go for a Shadow Ball that misses. We then connect with our next Shadow Ball, and this does a little bit over half, and we get hit with a Surf from Ludicolo that takes out a Cobalt. Well then, we are down to our last Pokemon, Boron. Luckily, Boron is very fast, it does outspeed the Ludicolo, and we do connect with a neutral Thunderbolt, Grass-Water type, and we can take out Boron with a single Thunderbolt. This just leaves Melodic. Our Boron is at full health. We do outspeed Melodic to tag it with a Thunderbolt, but unfortunately it's not enough to KO it, leaving it low in red health. We then get hit with a Stab Surf from Melodic that does a lot of damage down to 42 HP. The Citrus Berry activates, but it is not enough to pull this thing out of healing range because Wallace goes for a full restore. I should have gone for Tri Attack here, but it's fine. We lock it into this little back and forth where we hit it with another Thunderbolt back down to red HP, and Wallace goes for a full restore, and then we hit it with another Thunderbolt down to a sliver of health, and Wallace goes for another full restore. At this point I can hit it with a Thunderbolt down to red HP again, and then tag it with one more Thunderbolt to take it out and win us the Elite Four battle, winning us the Steel type run. I truly had a lot of fun doing this run. I was excited to do this one when I was thinking about it as we were doing the Dark type run of Soul Silver. Steel types are amazing. We lost 7 of the 8 and Boron made it through to the end. We know that Magneton is an amazing Pokemon, but some of these other Pokemon proved to be very good as well. Skarmory had its place, Steelix had its place. Unfortunately, we didn't get to use Scizor very much, nor did we get to use Fortress. But Metagross is a beast of a Pokemon, Aggron is truly beastly, and Mawile surprisingly got us through some very, very difficult battles in this run, so I'm very happy with the team, and Steel types are amazing. I love them. We have some weaknesses, obviously, to Fire and Fighting and Ground, but hey, we made it all the way to the end of a hardcore Nuzlocke using only Steel types. That's an impressive feat. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I did. It's time to get this thing edited and hopefully get it uploaded very, very soon. It is very early on a Sunday morning here. As we always do, we're running just a tad behind. Our next run I am planning out, and I'm not 100% sure yet what I'm going to do, but we're going to get this one done and then get started on the next one. As I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing if you've made it this far to the end of the video. And as always, thank you for the continued support, and I will see you on the next one.